Put this out in about 2 weeks.
Cool.
All right, welcome to another episode of Founders Club. Today we're going to be talking to Franco Perez of Franco Mobile Homes. He is tackling a really big problem in the United States of homeownership affordability, and he's got some really cool, really creative things he's doing in the space of affordable housing. And looking forward to having a great conversation with him. As always, make sure you check out the links in the description below. And if you like money and you like real estate, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and we'll see you on the inside. Franco, welcome to Founders Club.
Thanks. And I'm so excited to be here. So appreciate that.
Nice, man. Well, let's jump right into it. Like I was saying, I think some of the stuff you're doing in the mobile home space is really cool. It's really different. You're kind of bringing a whole fresh perspective to the affordable housing problem, and I'm looking forward to just having a few tips and tricks from someone like yourself. But why don't you just tell us how you got in the business, and then we can go from there.
Sure. I guess long story short, I kind of grew up from the Philippines, moved over to California at a young age, or about 15, 16 years old. And from that, had a weird housing situations where I was 17, 18 years old, where my parents split. My dad was the main breadwinner at the time. He left our family and left the country. And I was left with my mom and as a single mom and me and my younger sister. So we were kind of left with not much income to survive out in the Silicon Valley. I remember I was working 2 jobs. My mom was working 1 job. And still with that, we were collecting cans and collecting all that we had to just pay at the end of every month that space rent. And it was so painful. And I say that today because it's I know today as we speak, there's families that have financial insecurity and are going through the same pain. Long story short, after that is I became a real estate agent, did really well out of that because out of desperation for money, I was door knocking, cold calling for morning to night. And after doing really well off and feeling financially secure being a real estate agent, I actually ended up hating being a real estate agent. And
Hmm.
it just wasn't who I was, I felt. And I say that because I was kind of in a way being trained to help the wealthiest people I can help get the most expensive investments that they can get. And I had to turn away the people that were in my shoes back then when I needed help the most. And those people, and I had to tell people that, hey, unfortunately, you don't make enough money. Unfortunately, you don't have enough saved as a down payment, and you can make more and save more, and then I can help you later down the line. But to me, that was the most hurtful thing that I felt that I could do, because I know when I was in that pain, nobody was willing to help me. It was so difficult to find guidance, to find someone to even just take the time to help me out. So I left being an agent and dedicated my time to try to figure out the housing problem. How do we help families that were in my shoes back then be able to get in a better situation? Dabbled in the government a little bit, trying to fix affordable housing. I didn't like that much. And then I accidentally stumbled across mobile homes and mobile home parks. And from what I thought mobile home parks were, I thought it was for criminals, for bad quality homes, and because that's all we see in TV. And come to find out, I go to these communities and they're actually pretty nice. And it's a perfect place for a family to start their wealth building journey. So dedicated building a business around helping people understand mobile homes and helping people transact to get out of that rental rat race into mobile homes, and then build up their net worth from mobile homes to finally buy real estate. And built an entity of that. And then we became popular for realizing that how do we optimize these mobile homes in itself? We are now popular for converting these very old single wide trailer like homes into large, luxurious homes that are super contemporary, super modern with tech and that type of thing. We call them sexy mobile homes, where you got 12-foot high ceilings, you got quartz countertops, stainless steel
Yeah,
appliances.
not to cut you off there. I was checking out some of your projects and they're beautiful. Like these are not your stereotypical definition of what people think of a mobile home is. I mean, these are like imagine like a luxury house just scaled down.
Yeah. So, and that's exactly it. Is we're creating accessibility for housing while also optimizing an asset class like mobile homes, and for it to be accessible for middle class families, and it's a quality home like you mentioned. So
Right.
that's where we're at today, and now we're just really all about building more education and awareness that this is an option for families out there to be able to benefit, because from what most people know, it's either you rent or you own single or you own real estate, and it's a problem that needs to be solved. So, and that's where we're at today.
Yeah. Well, first of all, wow, it's a pretty heavy story of your upbringing, and then I think what a noble way to come bring it full circle to now building out these communities. So talk to me a little bit about like your business now. What is your main focus?
Yeah. So kind of what we talked about before is we have, our business is kind of three parts. We help people transact to get out of that rental rat race and into mobile home ownership. And then we do that model to help assist families that need that, whether it's financing, finding the right home, understanding how the numbers work. And then we have a second part, which is the construction. So replacing the old homes with the new ones, to build up their value. And the third part, which is only something we've only been doing recently, is helping mobile home park owners as well understand their values and how do we help deploy a system that will create better housing, whether they have blank lots that need homes or whether they have old homes that need to be replaced. And that's kind of how our business works now. And now we're trying to, we do a lot of government lobbying as well. So we help, we're always, I'm speaking at DC about how this is a huge help to society, and how do we help other markets in other areas like Austin and Atlanta to be able to realize this is something that can help fix the housing problem before it gets worse.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think it's a big problem that you're tackling, and I think it's a really cool way that you're doing it. So let's talk about this a little bit more. I think that obviously there's the stigma around mobile homes, but I think once people see the way that you're doing it, it's like a totally different approach in the way that you're really renovating these things, really bringing them up to like today's standard. Um, so let's talk a little bit about because most of the people on this show are, real estate agents, brokers, investors, and I know a lot of people. I don't know if shy away from mobile homes is the best way to put it, but it's not a large focus for the majority. But so I want to bring some education around like how people can help more buyers and sellers get involved in properties like this. Because to your point, there are a large group of people that are renting and have a little bit of money to be able to make a purchase, but they might not be able to get to that, $800,000 mark, the $1 million mark. So this is a great way to, I think, as you put it earlier, start your wealth building journey with something and have it be more of a stepping stone into your eventual like full-time house. What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to your question, I think it is quite fascinating because there part of what you mentioned is why, sorry, gathering my thoughts. Part of what you mentioned is that it's not attractive, it's not sexy to say we sold a mobile home or we helped buy a mobile home in the real estate world always. But I think what we really have to realize is how do we help more people with housing, and part of it is understanding the problem. So in our area, for example, I can talk numbers, but it's going to be different in San Diego. It's going to be different in Atlanta or Austin, but the ratios and the general problems kind of all the same, right? So there's a wealth gap issue. There's a housing gap issue. If we were to be in San Jose to rent a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, we would a family of 4 would be paying about $3,400 a month just to rent that apartment and just to survive, right? Just to be able to live here so that they can work here, and that type of thing. But if in that same zip code they wanted to buy a single family home, you're looking at a median price of $1.5 million and above, right? How does a family that's paying this huge amount of rent, whether it's a teacher or a construction worker or any middle class worker, ever dream of getting out of this rental rat race of paying rent and one day being able to purchase a $1.5 million home? It's very, very difficult, and it's a huge leap. And we need another tool to be able to bridge that gap, or a stepping stone in between. And what's beautiful about mobile homes is that it's a perfect stepping stone, and it's like a hybrid of both. You don't own the land, which a lot of people are shy away from, because they're like, it's why would I buy a mobile home if I don't own the land? But you do get a lot of the benefits of home ownership, and everybody knows the benefits of home ownership. The appreciation, the leveraging the loan to be able to buy something to build up your net worth, the tax breaks. We all understand that. But what's beautiful about the mobile home space is you get all of those benefits as well at a much more accessible price point. So if that family wanted to buy a $1.5 million home, if they had to put 10% down, it's $150,000, and their monthly payment would be more than $7,500 a month. Huge jump, right? Now, if that family wanted to buy a mobile home in our area, it would be about $300,000, and the space rent would be about $1,000 a month. The down payment of 10% of $300,000 is only $30,000. But with that, at least they can get a start. And their monthly payment on their mortgage would be about $2,700 a month, and the space rent $1,000. So in all, their monthly payment is about $4,000 a month, just a bit more than what they were paying in the rent model. But what we have to understand is that it's a much better cash flow, and you get the benefits of home ownership. You get appreciation, which a lot of people don't understand about mobile homes as well. You get to leverage a loan to build up your net worth, and you get the tax breaks that you do for real estate owning as well. And just by shifting from that full rent model where you could live there for 5 years and get nothing back, but just by shifting that cash flow to a mobile home, that can make a huge difference for a family to feel more financially secure, to have something that they can call their own, and to have something that later down the line they can sell as an asset and take benefits of getting that equity and that appreciation to now be able to buy real estate. And that's how agents have to look at it. That's how they have to understand it, is that it's a better financial tool and a much more accessible financial tool for families out there. And when you're able to help a larger set of income earners, or let's say you have to make an X amount to be able to buy real estate, when you can help people that make less, then we're able to really make a difference for families that really need it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And then so talk to us a little bit about how we as the real estate community can get more involved in this, and kind of help people take that stepping stone approach to buying real estate. To the example you just gave, right? It's basically the same as rent. The down payment is much less. You get all the benefits of ownership. And so how do we, because I know there's, the way that they're financed is a little bit different, and I know there's a lot of nuances, but how do we as the real estate community kind of get more involved, help more people, and take advantage of the opportunity?
The fastest answer to that is, and not to plug our YouTube channel, is we always get all of our FAQs and educational pieces on our YouTube channel. And just with what you said, it's like, how do we get financing for buyers? How, what are the financing options? How do we break down the finances? And that, our company's really been focused on building awareness about what are the false stigmas around mobile homes. What do they look like? What are they built? What should you look out for? Every area is a bit different, and there's a lot to understand. It is a bit more work than a regular real estate transaction, and it could get frustrating sometimes. But when you really know your stuff, and when you really know the elements of a mobile home transaction, it allows for you to help more. But for them to get involved is just first being aware, first understanding. Because like me, for example, I lived in San Jose this county for over 6 years, but I never knew there was a single mobile home park around. But
Yeah, and just to piggyback that on that, I think that a lot of people don't realize how many mobile home parks there are. Like here in Carlsbad, where I'm recording this, there's a mobile home park probably a half mile from here that's right on a bluff overlooking the ocean, and it's beautiful. And you'd never really notice it if you were just driving by, but they are literally everywhere.
yeah,
And so the opportunity is definitely there.
absolutely. And with that is really just educating yourself as an agent to how it works, and then really, because we don't have our only associations with mobile homes and mobile home parks are what we see in the movies or Netflix or Breaking Bad, right? But really take the time, drive through, take a look at it, and experience it for yourself. If you can't drive through, take a look at our park tours, our community tours, the storytelling of the real life scenarios of a teacher being able to feel financially secure because they were able to own a mobile home, right? And getting that understanding down. But as an agent, a lot of the elements are very similar. The only unique thing is the park approval process. It's kind of an element that's a second barrier to getting approved on top of the loan. But when you understand it, it's very, it's something that you can really add as a tool belt as being an agent.
And what do you mean by that exactly? Like what does that mean? Is that like an HOA kind of thing where they have to approve whatever you want to do, or what do you mean?
Yeah. So part of the sale process is you kind of have to get it's because you are leasing the land, even if you buy the mobile home cash or whatever it is, the land lease, what's common, just like in an apartment, they want to make sure you make enough money, you have good credit. Sometimes they'll do criminal history checks, that type of thing. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing in many ways because they want to make sure that there's qualified people that are going to be living here, and every park has its own different vetting process. You know,
Mm.
there's really nice parks that are very strenuous to try to get into, and there's parks that might be cheaper and not as pretty, but it might be a perfect stepping stone for a family that's all that they can afford. So it's
Mhm.
it's all about understanding that.
So they're actually vetting you as a person being able to be allowed to come into the community.
Correct. And like you said, it's kind of like an HOA system, where they want to make sure that all things align. Because the worst thing that can happen is you do end up purchasing and being a part of the community, and then you can't pay the rent and you get evicted and you lose the asset of the home, right? And being an agent itself, you want to be educated of that as well. I don't want people to be fearful that they would get evicted and that sort of thing, but it's just the same as a lender would qualify someone. They don't want to put them in a situation that
Right.
they're going to fail, right?
Yeah. And then what about like the building process? Talk to us a little bit about that because I think that is actually a really big opportunity because a lot of these mobile home parks, they've been there for 50, 60, 70 years. And so I think the opportunity to come in and maybe help someone do a renovation type thing or maybe even do it yourself. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think the one of the key problems, like we're talking about when it comes to housing, is the affordability. And what's fascinating about construction in our world today is that a lot of these problems, unfortunately, it's a sad world. It's not getting any better, and it's realistically getting way worse. the cost of construction is getting more and more expensive. We're getting more regulations, more permitting required. And on top of that, we're having a shortage of skilled labor. Younger generations want tech jobs. They don't want to work with their hands or work with a hammer. All of our current construction workers are 40 years old and older, and they're getting tired and want to retire, right? And with that, it's getting more and more difficult to build. And I say that because the way we're building homes today is really the future that we need for construction. Uh, I use this analogy about cars. Is cars were originally only built for the rich and wealthy, and it was only until we were able to streamline that process and build cars on an assembly line that we were able to drastically bring down the cost and keep the quality and be able to make cars available for everybody. And that's exactly what we're doing today as we're building these homes now. We're building these in the factory on an assembly line, maximizing the output of every employee that's there and still keeping the quality. And at the end of that assembly line, we have a much more affordable home that can be accessible for a family that needs to purchase it. It's the future that we need in construction. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, is because if we don't change things now, it's only getting worse and worse. And it's becoming a very popular topic nowadays throughout the country, because it really is something that every agent should know about. But with that being said, it's understanding the value of these mobile homes in the spot that they're in, and how do we and that's what we're popular now for, is converting these old 1970s homes with brand new, sexy mobile homes, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. And then what about can you put these things kind of anywhere? Like what about if they're not in a park and maybe they're say on the outskirts of town? Like what are the rules around just dropping in buying a piece of land and dropping a mobile home on it?
Yeah. So we build manufactured and modular, and we also do like ADU projects in these factories as well. That isn't our big focus, but we do have often that type of thing that we do build for. Regulations, it can be a big spectrum. Some cities are against it, some cities are very for it. But
Right.
our big focus is really within these mobile home parks, because we find that these are in the areas where there are these huge housing problems of that gap between rent and ownership. And it's in our eyes, it makes the most difference for those families.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense, and it is definitely city by city going to be really different in terms of how they allow you to build stuff, and one of the big issues that we need to get through as well is just all the permitting and red tape around building, because I think that would also help a lot. Um, but then yeah, so essentially you could put one of these anywhere, assuming it was permitted and all of that.
Yes. Assuming it was permitted, yes, correct.
Okay. And then what about do you look at mobile home parks as an investment at all, or do you mainly do this for buyers and sellers and people that want to purchase these newer, sexy mobile homes?
So our core business is basically within the residents in themselves, and that's how it's been for many years. But more recent time, I know you mentioned there's a lot of investors in here, and probably the question is to be, how could we be involved more in the investment perspective? It's been a very popular movement in the hedge fund and real estate world to start understanding how these mobile home parks work, right? And understanding how they can get involved as well. And we're starting to see a lot of acquisitions by a lot of money into these parks. That being said, part of what we do is help understand where are these mobile home parks that can be purchased, and then how does our entity come in and value add, whether it's building up the community amenities or converting the old homes to new, so that their investment can be can be evaluated at a higher rate later when they choose to refinance or sell. Um,
Mhm.
there's plenty of co-ops that we work with. It depends on your capacity of if you're buying a whole park in itself or getting involved with a co-op that um, that wants to buy as a team together. But yeah, that's part of what we do on the investment side.
Yeah, I'm sure there's on the investment side, like you said, if you're renovating a park, something like that, this is would make total sense. What cost wise, what would you say it costs to kind of take an old mobile home and bring it back to life? And maybe give us two prices. Let's talk about like the basics, and then let's talk about if we want to turn it into a luxury type mobile home.
Sure. And prices are going to be different per area, just like construction is, and just like real estate is. But for example, Malibu, Agora Hills area, there are projects out there converting an old one to new that can be 500, 600,000. But the price points out there, it still makes sense for them to spend that because their new evaluation of the conversion is now their home is worth 800 to 1.1 million dollars for a mobile home inside of a mobile home park in that area. So that's the high end. At the standard typical end, like in San Jose, we do conversions of an old single wide trailer to a 1,500 square foot standard brand new home. That will typically cost them at base out the door about 275, 280,000. But again, it becomes a win-win for all parties because they can, their current evaluation of the single wide could be 100,000. They spend 275,000, but their new home value of when they sell it later is 430,000. Right? It
Right.
becomes a win for them as a resident. It becomes a win for us because we get to service them and do the construction, and it becomes a win for the park and their neighbors as well because it raises the park um, the park appeal, and then also the values of the neighbors' homes as well.
Right. Yeah, no, I love that. That's really cool. Um, that is really cool. Yeah, those Malibu parks are crazy too. I've driven by those a couple times. They're right on the beach in the Malibu area and they don't look cheap at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for so 275 is kind of like let's call it the average in your area. Um, how does the financing work on that? Just basics. You said 10% down and what sort of a term and how does that work?
Yeah. So part of what we lobby and get backing for is we have a whole finance department that gets better financing for this, but it's very, very similar to real estate loans. You have instead of 30 years, you might see 20, 25 years. And yeah, so it'll be spread 10% down and a 25-year mortgage. Uh,
Yeah,
with that, the price point, keep in mind, 10% down, that's a price point being a third of what a 10% down would be on a single family home.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, the numbers you can see make total sense. And I think, again, just to bring it full circle, is the stigma of the mobile home park, I think, is what you're changing in a major way. And you're able to turn these into like really cool little communities. Um, and if, to your point, the park does a good job, like vetting the people that are in there to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And I mean, you could probably really create a wonderful little neighborhood.
Totally.
Well, right on, man. Well, I certainly appreciate all the insight, Franco. For those that want to learn more or connect with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, all of our links are together at www.franco.tv. You can find our Instagram, our YouTube. You can see the 3D tours of what these homes actually look like. If you're listening on the podcast and you haven't seen what these look like, I know we talk about it, but it really makes a difference to see it visually, and be able to see the quality of what this home actually looks like, see the quality of the communities, and also see use cases of families of that this has really been their the what's allowed for them to start their wealth building journey. And I think that's key for people to realize that this is an option.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I think it's a great cause. I think there's a huge need. To your point earlier, I think the need is only growing. And, learning about this space and being able to serve more clients, help more families get into the ownership box, I think all in all is really awesome. Do you have any final words for us?
Um, Final words. I think, it's fascinating is I urge people to, I guess it comes from my background and my experience being an agent. I know what's fascinating with me is I found that my energy was way more, even though I could make a lot more selling multi-million dollar homes and going that route. But I know there's a certain set of people out there that that want to help people that and really make an impact in people's lives. And I find if you're an agent out there that feels that, helping out people in this sector can really be beneficial. And it's
Yeah,
not just about doing more transactions, but it's more about seeing how much of a difference this makes in a family. Because I still tear up today whether it's last week or whatever, when I see a family that got their first piece of ownership while other agents has ignored them because they don't make enough. But
yeah,
being able to feel that you've made a difference in family is the best compensation that I could ever receive, knowing that
yeah,
we've made a difference in their lives.
yeah.
But I think if I could leave with something, that would be the biggest thing that I'd want to leave.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you're coming from the right place. And again, for everyone, it can just be another tool on the tool belt, right? It's another way to help people get into the ownership box. One thing we always say is, you don't build a business for the next year or two. You build a business to have a career. And those people, once you help them get in the owner's box a few years down the road, they might be at the point where now they can sell that, cash in on that equity, roll into something else. So just doing right by your clients and doing a great job and being to help as many families as possible, I think is the name of the game. And really appreciate what you're doing. Guys, go check out Franco and Franco Mobile Homes. Doing some really cool stuff in the space. As always, make sure you check out the links in the description. Hit the like and subscribe button. If you like money and you like real estate, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, Franco.
Thanks for having me.